Joining us now to give us more perspective on Platner's campaign as a whole is Phil Hirschkorn. Hello, Phil.
Hi, Bailey.
So I want to touch on in the video, he clarifies that he is dropping out because it is the institution rather than the allegations.
Right. Let's be clear. In the first minutes of the video, we skipped past that to get to the part where he says he's suspending the campaign. But he says these new rape allegations are not remotely true. He also said he just heard about them a few days ago, as we did, from press reports from Politico and from CNN. And he basically complained that he had no time, in his phrase, no time to really investigate it and respond to it. From 11 minutes after the Politico report was published, he posted his last video where he denied the allegation. So he's been consistent in that. But he says, as we heard in the excerpt we played, we believe for the movement to continue, it can't be me. He's always thought of his campaign as more than just a race to get elected to the U.S. Senate, but as a movement to change the politics of America.
And then, speaking on that, he has claimed we have won, talking about the primary and everything and the success of that. Can you break that down a little bit?
Well, he did get 72% of the vote, 154,000 votes, which for Maine is a record. In other states that's a drop in the bucket, but for us that's a lot. Let's not forget that even before we got to the June 9th primary, 40 days earlier on April 30th, Governor Janet Mills, a formidable political force, two-term governor who won statewide with 50%, was dropped out. She couldn't keep up with him. His crowds, his enthusiasm, his fundraising, his buzz, nationally and statewide. And that's what he was calling attention to, his achievement politically and electorally up until this point, surviving. He didn't talk about this, but as we know, surviving, as you just alluded to, other scandals, I guess is the right word for it, negative stories about his Reddit posts, about his Nazi tattoo, a couple of earlier stories that went in this direction, the sexting while married story, and a previous story that was like the prelude to this newer story where ex-girlfriends talked about him being intimidating and physically rough with them and so forth. So he weathered all that, won the primary, and now it's all over.
And now this is the turning point, the inflammatory moment. Lastly, what do we think comes next? We know that the Maine Democratic State Party, they had their meeting tonight to sort of form a plan for what's ahead.
Right. So, as Graham said in his video, he will formally file the papers of withdrawal. He's going to end his campaign, end his candidacy. He had just 5 days left to do that. By state law, the winner of a primary can voluntarily withdraw. No one can make him do it. He had to decide this on his own, and that was by July 13th, the second Monday in July. So that's going to happen. And then the state party has 2 weeks after that until July 27th to select a replacement. We learned just a couple of hours ago that the party has a plan in the works. It's a sort of a 600-person convention. That's the 100-plus people on the Democratic State Committee. They intend to elect 500 or so delegates proportionately from our 16 counties. They expect to do that in the coming days and then have a convention. We think maybe next weekend. We don't know where. Maybe Bangor, maybe Augusta, maybe Portland. And then invite candidates who want to be considered, and we've heard of about a dozen who want to be considered. They just have to get 200 signatures. For those who've run before, that's going to take them 5 minutes.
Right, and we previously reported just yesterday we have, former gubernatorial candidates, Dr. Rob Shaw, Troy Jackson, throwing their names in the ring. So we will see what's to come with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is really, it's kind of anticlimactic because for 48 hours we sort of all felt this was inevitable, not a question of if, but when we would get this announcement. And we should say Graham is clearly fighting back tears, in my view. He's choked up. He pauses lengthily as he's delivering this 11-minute and 15-second speech. People should watch the whole thing on, it took us 6-7 minutes to get to that part where he made the news, if you will, of suspending the campaign. But people might want to watch it for themselves because he does talk about a lot of other things. The institutional establishment resistance to his campaign, which, he ran a campaign that Maine hasn't seen in a long time. And he's the most talked about candidate in the country the last 10 months. Running for Senate, a first-time candidate who no one really heard of outside of Hancock County 11 months ago.
Definitely not a politician either. Again, he does clarify that he is dropping out because of the institution and rather losing resources rather than the allegations there. So we will have more details for you at 11. That has been all for this special report. We will see you later on tonight. Thank you for joining us.